Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. This is Coach Powell. Every Friday, I come to you around about the 3 o'clock hour to begin to discuss something that I think or my audience has put together um, to share with you that is of relevance to the small business community and, in fact, every business community. Today, we have to acknowledge that there's been a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about about the rolling back of DEI within the federal government, especially here on the East Coast, as well as the non-hiring in the federal workspaces that are coming out because of the president's executive orders. And it falls right into in line with what our topic for today is. Today we are discussing authentic praise and how it affects us emotionally and mentally, right? And what the positive aspects are of that when we get it right. But we also have to talk about what happens when we get it wrong. And it's just for academic, an understanding. And I'm not condemning anybody for what they say or what they do, or their political leanings or anything like that. But I will tell you, there is a way to deliver even bad news to people in a way that doesn't leave them decimated, that doesn't leave them emotionally despondent or somehow um, put together. We're going to talk all about that at the top during the program when you get started. I've got some super special guests here today, and I have to apologize for those of my guests that got the invitation to come late because that's my fault. I've been so busy wrestling with so many different things in life and business that I just got it off too late. And a lot of people they might be coming into the show a little late, but but the most powerful ones are already here. I'll tell you right now. I just to have my favorites right. Leah Garcia from her company already here, and she's just a fantastic representative of the small business community when it comes to learning and understanding the different ways to finance. If you get a chance to listen to her show and pay attention to some of the content she's putting out, I promise you, you won't be let down. Hopefully, we'll get Leah to put a little link to her something what she's doing in the chat, and I'll make sure that it gets publicized, far and wide. So, Leah, if you can work on that, be great. But today's topic is super important, guys. And I want you, as you come on the show, if you could, put in the chat and engage where you're coming from, any questions you may have about your business or what business that you have, put that information in the chat. Sometimes I can answer those questions, sometimes because we have time. Sometimes we don't have time to answer those questions, but that doesn't mean we can't continue to come back to those questions because this is being broadcast on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram at the same time. So what you're seeing is an opportunity to engage across many, many, many channels, and you never know who's watching, and you never know who can answer a question that you may have that's going to help move you forward, no matter what the question is, no matter where it's coming from. We encourage that. We want to make sure that you understand how to be involved with this business community. This is a business friendly channel. So if you have something to promote, if you have some idea that you want to share, feel free to do so. I want to make sure that people who engage with the show and respond to the show and even share the show with their friends don't just do it in isolation, but you make the opportunities available for other people. That's my way of public service, right? This is my way of giving back to the communities that I know for a fact are more than 80% responsible for the economic well-being of our nation. Small businesses, women-owned business, minority-owned businesses of all types are responsible for more than 80% of our total GDP. We are the heartbeat of the American economy, the US economy, and we have to make sure that we do all that we can to support and take care of one another as we do things, and making sure that we don't just go wave and say that's nice, but buy from each other, support each other, invest in one another. There are so many different ways to support our small businesses, and that's what this show is all about and dedicated to. And so let's make sure that we're giving each other shout outs when we need to, or giving each other attaboys when we can, or, pat on the back, whatever we can do to show us love and support for the small business community, I promise you will be a good thing to do. So for those of you who are my advocates out there, my zealots, my friends who love small businesses, I thank you for watching the show, for sharing the show, for participating, engaging in any way you can, whether that's online, face to face, or just watching. That's great. By the way, everything we do is on demand, so you could go back and watch old episodes from a long time ago. Today's episode is episode number 13 in a series that we're doing all about the rap approach, right? So this is just another aspect of the rap approach as we begin to talk about today's topic. Okay, we're going to be getting into today's topic. I want to share one little thing with you, and then we're going to get this party started. Here we go. Hello, hello, hello. Today you are going to be just surprised. This is a great presence among us. Leah Garcia is here today, and she's here to help us usher in this conversation and begin the discussion of authentic praise and how authentic praise can help fix or repair or even improve the neurology of our brains, how it functions both for the giver and for the receiver. We're also going to talk about the 7 fundamental basics of an authentic praise mindset. So if you as a leader want to be better at this, you have to understand that you have to first change your mindset. You have to develop, the skills and the talent, the ability to think like a person who wants to use authentic praise as a tool. Because if you don't have the fundamentals down, then you're not going to be able to do this correctly. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in today's discussion as well. But before we do any of that, I got to introduce the boss lady who needs no introduction. Miss Leah Garcia is back there, and she's ready to share with us a little bit about who she is and where she's coming from and things that are going on for her in the small business community. And we're looking forward to hearing from her. So let's bring her to the stage right now, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, Miss Leah Garcia. How are you, Leah?
Happy Financial Literacy Friday. I am excited. I'm so honored to be here and share this moment with you, Coach Powell. I believe that this is a really special time, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Well, my name is Leah Garcia, financial strategist and insurance professional, and I really serve entrepreneurs and enterprises with up to 50,000 employees, and I help them to properly protect, distribute, and transfer their wealth so that we can build that legacy and create generational wealth. We've already had generational poverty. I mean, that's so last year. That's so last decade. I believe it's our time to rise up and thrive and build generational and multi-generational wealth for our families, and we can absolutely do that. I call it our growth money mind shift. It is time for us to have that shift. We got to shift in our thinking. We got to shift in what we're doing. What got us here won't get us there. And just like Coach Powell alluded to, there's a lot of changes that are happening in real time. We're living in history right now in real time. And it is our opportunity for every one of us who are these entrepreneurs in minority-based businesses, women-based businesses, to really stand up, and we can make the change. We can start this movement. So I'm excited to be a part of this new crusade. So thank you so much, Coach Powell.
Oh my God, it's so wonderful to have you on the show. I want to put you backstage for a little bit, but you just reminded me. One of the reasons why I put this show together in the first place is because I understand the loneliness that comes along with being a leader, being an entrepreneur. Often we experience record levels of isolation and therefore uh, depression and anxiety, things like that come along with building a business and being out there by yourself without a whole lot of support. And it's so important that we do come together in these communities, not just during the rough times, but all the time, to support one another and to share with one another, and just even if it's for a few minutes, to be in the same space virtually. matters a lot to people. Just us having the positive vibes that we're giving off in the show, if people watch this later on, it's going to have a positive effect on them. So I'm so glad that you're here with me, Leah. I'm so glad that we're able to share and support entrepreneurs and business leaders in this way. Okay, let me put you backstage and we're going to talk about what's going on. Today's show is super special. I can't tell you how excited I am about this because of what's going on today. What's going on today is we seem to have a lack of ability, even in our leadership, from our government services, to really think about how we take care of one another. How do we literally support one another, even if we can't support one another financially or with resources? How do we support one another? Because we can support one another just by giving some authentic praise here and there, right? Authentic. The key word to that is authentic. You cannot do this fake. I'm supposed to respect you or honor you when I really don't. It's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to fake it, and the cost of faking it is absolutely traumatic. But I want to talk to you. We talked to you last week about what the great spiritual thinking was around authentic praise and how long all of our spiritual traditions have come together and decided that these sets of behaviors that we should engage in when it comes to dealing with one another are ways of creating greater community, of creating a better environment for the rest of us. And there's so much to learn from the neurology of this whole thing, right? So what I want to do today is I want to talk to you about, first I want to tell you a couple stories of three entrepreneurs, Sarah, John, and Lisa, right? Quick stories. Well, not gonna be a long time. We're gonna talk about how praise, and my favorite quote about how praise affects us in terms of what our brain can be doing. And then we're gonna get into the deep dive of how authentic praise affects the receiver of authentic praise, of course, because we want to make sure we're doing things that people are receiving well, but also for the giver. What does it mean to be good at this? And then we're going to talk about the overall benefits and finally the 7 fundamental aspects of the authentic praise mindset. So let's get into it. First and foremost, let's read you the stories of uh, Sarah, John, and Lisa. Sarah, she happens to run a marketing agency. And then she started a program in her agency called the Kudos segment in the meeting. Like the kudos segment is when people were encouraged to give kudos or authentic praise to one another based on what they saw the team doing. So she encouraged her team to praise their peers for specific achievements. This eventually boosted the morale and created a better sense of teamwork. John, on the other hand, owns a boutique software firm. And John began writing personalized thank you notes to his employees, recognizing their unique contributions, which basically increased their loyalty. When you get that personal note from John, it means something, right? Lastly, there's Lisa. Lisa's a cafe owner. Lisa regularly shares her team's successes on social media. She's giving them public recognition that enhances their pride and motivation. Overall, when you think about authentic praise, it not only benefits the individual employees, but it also contributes to the healthier, more productive workplace culture. And in fact, the whole RAP approach, which we're talking about for the last 13 weeks, is about that. It is about creating a better culture for people to work with and be a part of and belong to. So, how do you think implementing authentic praise in your organization would improve the overall cognitive function of your team? One of my favorite quotes is from Douglas Hofstadter, who wrote An Eternal Golden Braid, right? Um, and Hofstadter reminds us that the brain is an amazingly flexible thing. Our mind seems to be nearly irreconcilable with the notion that our brains must be out of a fixed rule hardware, which cannot be reprogrammed. Yet, and still, we can still control how we think, right? No matter how we think of our brain as a done deal, it's not. because we still can control how we think. So that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Maulana Karenga, who's the creator of Kwanzaa, who says, um, none of us is a finished product. All of us are ongoing, continuing projects, meaning we're never done. As long as we have life, as long as we have breath, we're not done growing, and our brains are not done growing and developing. Yes, there is a time when we can't not rebuild the neuroplasticity of our brain because of age and effects of aging. But until we get to that point, and we can actually prolong ever getting to the point where our brains are no longer growing by doing some of the things we're going to be talking about today, right? Science and research are proving daily how everyone benefits from getting this authentic praise thing down, right? It has amazingly profound rewiring effects on the neurology of both the giver and the receiver. It does so much to improve our well-being, and it turns out to be the perfect tool when used liberally and deliberately. So let's talk about what the receiver receives. When you are the receiver of authentic praise, one of the first things that happens is your brain starts to release a neurotransmitter, neurohormone called dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward, and you literally start to feel good about yourself, your contribution, the thing that you're doing. When someone sees you, catches you, understands what you're doing, and enjoys it, so much so that they have to even comment and say, good job, you're doing well. I like what you're doing here. It makes me feel good, or it makes me understand more about whatever I need to understand more about. I just genuinely appreciate it because I value your contribution as a result of it. But just doing that creates a praise loop. And what do I mean by a praise loop? When you feel that good, somebody makes you feel that good about something you're doing, you tend to want to share that good feeling back to them and let them know how wonderful they are and some of the things that they've done that's impressed you. And then it's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth as a continuing, spiraling, upward, positive, emotional, enhancing feeling. So that's thing one, the dopamine release. The next thing for the receiver is the increase in motivation. I mean, it makes all the difference when leaders work hard to inspire their teams to achieve, right? This release of dopamine also enhances their motivation and encourages them to continue to perform well, can continue to strive for excellence. So you got the dopamine release that's helping you with the helping you get that neurotransmitter release to help you start that praise loop. And then you got the increased motivation. The next thing that the receiver gets is a reduced amount of stress. You see, there's a lot of emotional strain that comes along with being an entrepreneur or being in business in our world today. It's an overwhelmingly difficult task. You got to complete, you got to deal with a lot of complex problems. You got to create a lot of new systems. And it's very, very difficult because when you haven't done it before, or people around you haven't done it before, and there's no one there to support you through it, you feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel anxiety, you feel tension. And when people notice you doing this work, or people notice you doing things, what happens is there's a reduced level of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, right? And when that level of cortisol is reduced in our brain, it reduces the stress and it promotes a sense of well-being. It's important that we understand that we have this opportunity to do this for one another. All we have to do is pay attention. All we have to do is be on the lookout for someone working hard, or for someone trying to do something that maybe no one has ever done in our families before, or to see someone, moving towards what is they consider excellence, or something that's positive, right? It's critically important, because that then, when you can reduce that sense of that stress, it's easier for people to feel well. It's easier for them to be happier. It's helping them feel more relaxed and more in control of themselves. So you get that dopamine release, the increased motivation, the reduced stress, and then you get the big one. And this is the one I love. When the receivers receive this authentic praise well, it enhances their self-esteem. I can't think of a more important superpower to have right now than the ability of being able to boost the feeling of worth and value to people that I'm blessed to collaborate and associate with. You see, great leaders, they constantly seek to make contributions that might help people build themselves up and help people have more pride and faith in themselves as they move forward. As it turns out, even receiving this sincere recognition is a tremendous boost to self-esteem, self-confidence, and it leads to overall improvement in performance and mental health. You can't beat authentic praise. You just can't do it when it comes to the receiver end, right? It does so much for people. But we kind of always know that it feels good to be praised. So those of us who are leaders and those of us who get around interact with others and those of us who get to use this tool, use it kind of liberally. But what happens to the giver of authentic praise? There are a couple of key ideas that I'm going to share with you about what happens to the giver. Well, the giver of authentic praise, when you think about it, when you notice somebody doing something amazing and you so appreciate it, right? You so value it. What happens to you in yourself, in your own mind, as you're sharing the benefit that authentic praise to them is you are actually producing and releasing what we call oxytocin. Oxytocin, or the love hormone, right, is that hormone that we emit that helps us feel connected to other people, help us want to share and be more intimate with one another. Now, I'm not talking about anything weird or anything, illegal. All right. But I will tell you that as human beings, we get to benefit from this feeling of connection and trust between the giver of this praise and the receiver of the praise. Now, of course, do not initiate unwanted advances in any way, shape, or form, verbally, emotionally, on screen, on camera, or any place else with other people, because that's not fair. Um, and so you have to have a level of emotional intelligence to understand how to do this and do this well. If you try to do this and you don't get those receivers back, you don't get the feedback from other people that you're on the right track, then you probably need to stop, cease and desist with whatever you're saying. Even if you think it's authentic praise, it might not be received the way you want to be received. So be careful. I'm not saying don't say anything, but be sure that you're saying whatever you're saying in a way that people can receive it. Right? That's thing one. So you do it right, you're gonna get, as a giver, you're gonna get some oxytocin release for yourself, and that's gonna cause the people that you shared with to also feel that oxytocin release, and they're gonna give it back. And you're gonna get a sense of closeness that you might not have known before you witnessed this amazing thing that they said or did. Right. The second thing is going to happen again. It's going to enter that positive feedback loop we talked about earlier. Um, because as you're giving them this authentic praise, you start to create the environment for you to receive that praise back. Because when the person feels good about what you said to them, they're going to say something back to you that gives you more positive reinforcement of what you're doing and how you're feeling. This is super, super important for our relationships, right? So you're going to get that oxytocin release, you're going to get that positive feedback loop. The next thing that's going to happen for the giver is they're going to notice the improvements in the relationships that they have. People are going to bond better together. They're going to be more attracted to one another. They're going to pay more attention, seek closer connections, and be less fearful of how they interact with one another. The reason why all these DEI rollbacks are taking people by storm is because people didn't take the time to really get to know each other, take the time to get to understand each other, where each other's coming from. And it's a shock now because we don't do any of this emotional intelligence or sharing that we should do amongst our fellow peers and countrymen, really. Um, and there's no level of understanding. And so, because there's no empathy, there's no um, anyway, I'm not gonna get on my soapbox. I'm gonna finish this up. So the first thing that happens when the giver gives authentic praise is they release oxytocin. Then they get that positive feedback loop going. They start to notice improvements in their relationships as they foster more supportive and collaborative environments. And the last thing that happens is, and it's all together, right? There's an increase in empathy. The more people take the time to notice each other, to engage with one another, to share with one another, to attempt to find something good that they're doing together, the more that we tend to engage in practice of recognizing and appreciating each other's efforts. This basically enhances empathy and emotional intelligence, and it dramatically increases our ability to perceive, understand, manage, and handle our own emotions. So the overall benefit of authentic praise is only two things, right? One is neuroplasticity. Basically, your brain has the ability to reorganize itself and form new neural connections. It makes you think faster, it makes you more efficient, it improves your cognitive processing, which leads to long-term positive changes in your behavior and your mindset. The second thing it does is it enhances well-being. Basically, the combined effects of dopamine and oxytocin, along with the reduced cortisol levels, contribute to your overall mental and emotional well-being for all parties involved. So what's not to love about authentic praise? These neurological benefits highlight the importance of incorporating authentic praise in your daily interactions, both personal and in professional settings, right? But there's seven, and I'm going to go through them really quickly because I know we're running close on time. There's seven fundamental aspects of the authentic praise mindset. So before you start to go into you know, um, practicing authentic praise on a regular, consistent basis and using it as a tool, I think you need to check your mindset, right? Check. Do you have genuineness? Do you honestly care about the members of your teams? Do you honestly appreciate their contribution? Are you being attentive enough, observant enough? Can you recognize their value and unique efforts and achievements? Number two, humility. Do you have the modest mindset, right? Can you put others first more often than not? Are you fearlessly acknowledging and celebrating the accomplishments of your associates and your fellows, even if they might be considered competitors? Um, do you seek to shame them or demean them in any way? Because you don't want to do that, right? So that's just showing that you have humility when you're going to put others first, when you're going to acknowledge them and their contributions and celebrate their achievements, and make sure you're doing that, right? So that you're putting them out front, not you. The third thing is empathy. Do you have it? Do you know how to demonstrate high levels of emotional intelligence and empathy? Do you recognize the team members' emotions and their motivations? Do you know how to inspire them and connect them to a higher sense of enthusiasm and purpose? Number four, are you growth oriented? Do you view authentic praise as a tool to foster growth and development? Do you know how to use it to reinforce positive behaviors and encourage continuous improvement? Number five, transparency. Can you communicate openly and honestly, ensuring that whenever you give people praise, it's specific and it's meaningful? You want to avoid the vague or generic compliments, opting instead for detailed acknowledgments that reflect your genuine appreciation. That's real transparency and authentic praise, right? Then there's consistency. Are you consistent? Right? Because you don't want to be this person who speaks to somebody on your team like once a year and you have something positive to say out of the clear blue sky as if you didn't notice that they were there all along or they're working alongside you all along or you're doing things that are conducive to the growth of your mission, right? You want to be consistent. So you want to make sure you practice this. You do this regularly. In fact, you want people to hear you giving praise to other people and go, I wonder what I need to do to get on the radar. But make sure you put them on the radar too and catch them doing something good, something wonderful. The last thing you want to do, number 7, in terms of the mindset of authentic praise is to be supportive. I mean, you want to be nurturing. You want to create a positive and inclusive environment around you. I mean, when did words like equity and inclusivity become a sin? Like how could they be bad for our life and our world and our economy? I think not. The 7 fundamentals of authentic praise. Let me read them to you real quickly: genuineness, humility, empathy, growth orientation, transparency, and consistency, as well as supportiveness. You got to have these things because if you don't have these things, if you don't have this mindset, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be able to be authentic when you give people praise, and it's gonna fire back on you. It's gonna come back on you as people are going to say you don't really mean that, or you don't even know what you're talking about. You can be praising people for something that they take for granted. And they're gonna be like, that's no big deal. It's never been a big deal. And you trying to make it a big deal. You trying to gas me up, right? So you don't want to, you know, um, be disingenuous at all. But if you get this mindset wrong, you're gonna be disingenuous. And you're gonna cause a lot more harm than good. Next week, I'm gonna share with you the magic of my authentic praise skill assessment. And you'll be able to look at it and take this test for yourself and see how well you do. And also the affirmations that you need to have to really, really get this right. And then we're going to close this whole series out, and I'm going to do a recap of the whole RAP approach and how it works in organizations and corporations and how we can all get along and do it really well. I got to introduce my boy Nick. He's back there chomping at the bit. And I know he put his big brain on what we're talking about today. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself and what he's doing. And see, Nick Savage is in the house. And Nick, I'm about to bring you on, so you need to be on camera so you can tell people who you are. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. C. Nick Savage. Where'd he go? Nick disappeared on me. There he is. Now turn your mic on, bro.
Hello, hey, MP.
Tell us who you are and what you're all about, brother.
Right now, I'm about being a grandfather, a babu right now. We're getting it live right here in my grandbaby's room. So I said,
That's wonderful. Oh, wow. You're in the grandbaby's room. That's perfect. That is perfect.
I'm in baby Looney's room. So I said,
So how do you help entrepreneurs and business leaders, and how do you help the forward flow of small business?
That's a great question. I love what you were doing, telling the viewers and subscribers and listeners about, basically how do you get that growth mindset and how do you sharing with them your framework, which I thought was phenomenal. And essentially what you're saying, that's always a challenge, MP, like I found too. And that is when you're in that position, in many cases, you may see the individual, but the individual doesn't see themselves in the mirror. And when that's getting done, although in some cases you may be authentic about what you see for them and you see the vision of them, whether it's an athlete or whether it's an executive or whether it's the person off the street who's looking for that next level of success, essentially they if they don't see themselves, that's what's got to happen first. And with that, like you just asked, the focus is on finding that message and that story for them that they know how to communicate and hear, because a lot of people can't listen. All of us who are typically, I'm introvert and extrovert, more X than N, but I'm still an alpha. I'm more of an omega alpha, like you
I get
said.
it.
Hey, Leah. Omega alphas, what does that mean to me is that you don't force feed, you don't beat the ground, you let the other, you pretty much pull back. That's what I learned from the women in my life, Leah, is the person who's asking the questions is in charge. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to let servant leadership. So basically, in a nutshell, is keep serving and making sure for that authentic approach to come across. Essentially, you have to be in listen mode. 70, right? 75% of the time. Because if you say one thing, as an alpha that might be very direct, it could deflate my client.
Yeah.
I don't care whether it's the athletic client or whether it's the academic or whether it's the business client. Essentially, they've got to have a good grasp on the soft sciences, like you said. So focus primarily on EQ. And people care how much you care before they care how much you know, right? The whole know and care thing.
True.
So I would say, especially now, it's different. So I'd say since post new normal, it's even heightened, where you really have to be in listen mode and put your ego on the side, else you may not have any business.
You're reminding me of the fact that I said this on a post a couple of days ago, and I mean it. Our ancestors prepared us with a blueprint of how to respond to the kinds of initiatives that are being placed forward with our government and within our really coming down to our private companies too. And we know we know we kind of have we know what to do. We know what protests have worked and which ones haven't worked to accomplish what aspects that we want to accomplish. And so now we're armed with that information. And so we know what to do. We're gonna take it to the streets again. We're gonna take it to the streets, and we're gonna do what we need to do to make sure that people are heard and understood and listened to. And that's one of the beautiful things about this country is we have the ability to, when we want to, stand up and do what we need to do. Take it to the streets, man. It does not mean that there's not going to be any sacrifice or any suffering, right? I remember thinking, how could parents give their children up to have water hoses and dogs attacking them during the civil rights movement, right? I was like, how could that happen? What parent would do that? And then I realized that most of them didn't. Them children was off on their own, and some of them were actually set up. They didn't know that this was going to happen, because they needed to show that for the TV cameras so that the rest of the world could see what happened. In fact, I know some of the science behind that because I heard from the people who orchestrated some of that. Like, they did that on purpose. They wanted to get them children out there on the TV cameras, and they weren't hoping for violence to ensue, but they weren't mad at it when it did, because that was a PR move.
Yeah.
So everybody else can see, you putting police hoses and dogs on children down there. Oh, we got to change this, right? So, same thing with George Floyd and other things. We're going to do what we need to do. We're going to get back out there. We're going to have more agitation and more response. All you do when you poke the bear is the bear is going to be defensive. But unfortunately for us, we know how to do it right now. We know how to do it in a way that's not just, you know, burn, baby, burn. We're not going to be burning stuff down. We don't have to do that no more. But we know how to respond in a way that's going to get the proper attention to the right way. I think. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm looking for the opportunity now because you know, we learned a lot from a lot of these different movements, Black Lives Matter, civil rights movements, March on Washington's and all that kind of stuff. We learned what to do. We'll get it. We'll get it done, I'm sure. So anyway,
that's where you leave me speechless, right? Because from my view, we'll see.
Yeah,
I'd say the big.
I know we don't have the same. I know we don't have the same energy and effort, but I know we have a different type of intellect that we can bring to the table that we didn't have before. So I think the good is going to have to win over this one in this time anyway. But back to authentic praise. When you think of how praise affects yourself, your mind, has anybody ever had someone say to them something that's changed their trajectory or their thinking about their career and all that kind of stuff in a positive way?
Oh yeah, for sure. This conversation makes me think back to my second grade teacher, Miss Hammond. Her and I had the same birthday. And, growing up, I grew up on food stamps and welfare. And if we missed the bus, we didn't go to school. Our parents wouldn't take us. So we missed a lot of school. And so I remember that, a lot of times I was wearing wrong size clothes, field trips. A lot of times I didn't attend because I didn't have the requirements, couldn't pack a lunch and those kinds of things. But she always took the time to make me feel special. One thing she did was she would reward us when we got correct grades and good spelling tests. She would let us get jelly beans. And so at the end of the day, we'd see who had the most jelly beans, and I would have all these jelly beans. It wasn't until that I realized that, gosh, maybe I was one of the smarter kids in the class. I didn't even know that before then because I was hardly ever at school, right? And so just her acknowledgement of, wow, Leah, look at those jelly beans, and, look at how amazing you did when I was at school made a huge difference. And I wanted to be at school. Before that, I felt like I was invisible. In fact, I probably wanted to be invisible because I didn't have the right clothes and all those things. But yeah, so something as subtle or as little, seemingly little, right? It's those insignificant things that have tremendous results. And it was from that point that I wanted to go to school. I wanted to have good grades. I wanted to get that praise and recognition, right? We wanted to have those good feelings. So that's a great point, Coach Powell, what you shared.
Sure. I got a great example that I want to share with other entrepreneurs out there. So oftentimes that we feel like we're out there by ourselves, right? We're doing things that nobody understands, the pain, the suffering, the anguish, the late nights that we spend thinking about the thing we're thinking about and how we're going to make it happen and all that kind of good stuff. But every once in a while, you'll get a professional like a lawyer or an accountant or a banker who might spend extra time with you explaining something, or might spend extra time with you showing you how all this part of the business works, or being a marketing professional or somebody, giving you tons more than they would ever give you because they see something in you, right? The time to let them know that they have made an impression on you and they have changed the directory of how you're thinking about things is right now, right? Because when they've done something specific, you can't wait until the loan gets approved or the audit trail doesn't cause you any problems or whatever. You got to give them that authentic praise right then and there, because they don't often get it. They don't often get it in ways that matter, because a lot of times whatever we're doing, we think it's just, it's something we're doing, and we don't know how it really benefits others until others tell us how it benefits them, right? So the thing is that we get a chance to build mentorship programs, mentorships. We get a chance to build advisory councils. We get a chance to start new relationships with professionals out there that we need to have in our lives by starting to acknowledge their gifts, acknowledge their talent, acknowledge their ability. And, just I had a guy come over to my house maybe a month or two ago who's working on my uh, air conditioner. Yeah, working on air conditioner. And I was like, I'm not gonna really need it in a little bit because it's gonna be winter time, so I don't really care so much about it. And he was talking to me about, how to make sure, when the time comes in the spring, when I need what I need, who I need to call, and what I need to say, and what I need to ask for, and what I need to do to save me the most amount of money when we actually repair this thing and all this kind of stuff. And he took the time to make sure I understood this. And then he said, now, when you do this, you want to call this person and you want to get this discount and this code and that, blah, 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 blah. He walked me all the way through that, wrote it all down for me, saying, I don't want you to forget. So he wrote it. Just took the extra time to really go above and beyond my expectation. And I didn't just give him a tip and say, thank you. I let him know. It's like, dude, you have no clue. What you've done for me is improve my value in my own house, because I'm going to have to go back and tell my wife, here's what we're going to do with this situation. We're going to do boom, 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 boom. Because Tom told me and gave me the secret, the cheat code, right? He told me what I need to do to make sure we really work this out. This is going to be a difference of savings of thousands and thousands of dollars when we get this done. And it's going to work much more efficiently and better than it worked before. As a result of that, of course, my stock goes up in the house. Because wife looks at me, he's the hero. I'm not solving the problem, right? But I got enough information from another source that it made me more valuable, right? And that happens all the time in different places when you pay attention. You do exactly what Nick said. You have to pay attention. A lot of reasons why we have a lot of this rollback of DEI and all that kind of stuff is because people aren't paying attention.
That's right.
They aren't listening to these other people who have so many more ideas and so much creativity and so much pent up, possibility for years, because, oppression is real. Racism is real. We want to marginalize people. Our brains want to literally take the easy route. If we could just work with people who look just like us all the time, we probably would. And we wouldn't even force ourselves to try to get outside the box and start to play with others and accept that they have some talent and some abilities that maybe we didn't even know about because we didn't work hard enough to uncover it.
Well, I don't know, MP. Like I said, I agree with you there, but especially with the brown and black crew, we're stuck there as well. I'm saying that belief in the peer group, whether you want to call it there's a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. That's where I think we're primarily stuck right now. And that's, this is an embodiment of what we're doing right now. We have everyone here, we got a rainbow, but at the same time, I would say, like you said, I spend a lot of effort right now, like you say, ego. I like what Cam Newton said, right? And remember, I never forgot it, where it was, that's someone exiting God out. Okay. You're exiting God out, and you're making yourself, the God. And right now, more than ever, you really got to be pretty thick-skinned, especially when you're going across the generations. And for a lot of things that'll be most effective right now, they got to be cross-generational, execution. And from the silent generation to the Gen Alpha, everyone's speaking a different language now. I mean,
it is true.
What a word means. I just saw a gentleman, he was joking, saying he was a goat, but he meant it in a negative way. and he's a boomer, right?
Right, right, right.
And so I'm explaining to him at business, I said, no, you're a GOAT like Tom Brady or,
Right, right, right,
Braun or
right, right.
Steph. You're that kind of a GOAT. He said, oh, okay. So those things, and we need it now more than ever, because really, right now is just more of for me personally, with being a boomer, one, you find from a familiar standpoint and from a employee standpoint, as funny as it sounds, your employees go, how many people haven't never heard the words, I'm proud of you?
Yeah.
Never. I'm
Never.
saying from their parents, from they've never even heard. Forget money, things like that. Just authentic. Don't.
But if you flip that and say how many people have heard I'm disappointed in you,
Oh,
oh, you're gonna find a
yeah,
lot of people
yeah.
who
I'm
heard
proud.
that.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
proud of the project. I'm proud. I'm so happy to be associated with it. Right. And when with men, as we all know, right, Leah, you got to look at a man's actions. I know this is a generalization, but many of the women I work with, what they tell you, what's Maya say, when people tell you are, believe them.
right,
With predominantly men, it's what's the action.
right.
So if there's no word associated correlating to an action, just what you said, MP. Yeah, there's a lot of words floating around right now. There's an
True, true,
inundation
true,
of
true.
words, but those who can correlate the word and an action to it, as small as it may be, you know, guys coming around, we got all our businesses going where guys come and say, hey, let's make a coconut deal. We got coconut trees, we got mango trees. All right, dudes, trim the trees. You keep the fruit. Let's keep.
I
We ain't got to do a lot of
remember
talking.
people saying in my line when I grew up, like feelings don't even matter.
Mhm.
So of course we don't have the emotional intelligence and we don't have the ability to even express feelings because
Mhm.
we marginalized them so long ago and so much so deeply that we don't even have what it takes to express the feelings. When my daughter first started coming home with these exercises, she had these smiley faces, right? These different faces, frowny faces, happy faces, anxiety faces. And I'm looking at them, I'm going, why are y'all doing that? And she says, well, because we need to understand how each other feel so that we can talk to each other better, or we can do better with each other. And I'm like, wow,
Wow.
I
Mhm.
Yeah.
didn't even have
Mhm.
any of that kind of stuff. What I was taught was your feelings don't matter. You can just whatever you feel. It's as long as you get your work done. That's all you need to do. You ain't got to feel good about it. You ain't got to like it. You ain't got to love it. It doesn't have to feel right to you. Just do what you're told.
Right,
And once if you do what you're told, you're gonna be good. So I'm like,
right.
okay. And you know, it, it mattered to me ego wise
Yeah.
when I wasn't getting in trouble. So I didn't speak up in class because I don't want to get no trouble, but also couldn't get my questions answered because
Mhm.
I wasn't speaking up in class. And it would be easy for me to disengage because I'm like, you're not gonna answer my questions anyway, or you don't want me to ask any questions, and so I'm just gonna sit here and think about things I want to think about and not engage
Mhm.
in the relationship, the courses, whatever was coming in front of me. And that stunted. I had to stunt my growth, right? Because growth is accumulative.
Mhm.
If the times you could have spent in class, Leah, you didn't, right? You
Mhm.
can't get that time back.
No.
Mhm.
you know,
Right.
and you don't know what effect it had, on what
Mhm.
the next possibility could be.
Yeah.
So I think the answer, Nick, for a lot of us is we need to spend more time engaging
Yeah, and
and
with
more
that,
time, and like you said earlier, more time asking questions
but what's
and
your baby
really.
girl? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ask the question. Go ahead.
What's your baby girl? Also showed. I found it a challenge in Florida
Mhm.
specifically, and that is, in the world of cave signals and emojis, You know, yeah, it's not a matter of generation. Yeah,
Right.
you know, we know what an emoji is, but like you said, I really have to push hard when reading cues, and that's what we're talking about, right? You were saying in the last meeting, people don't. There's so many who don't want that interaction.
Right.
You know, they want to text each other, you know,
Right.
and say the business deals off with a text. You know, they want
Right.
to have a contract with a text
Yeah.
and an emoji to indicate their emotion. So
Right.
the question is for us to achieve generational communication success and this balance thing. You know, I saw where Trump is saying now he's forcing all the feds back. I wonder if that's good or bad, you know, because now how you do it, you know, one massive plan, I don't know about that, where it's just, you know, end all be all, everybody go back into story 5 days a week. But I am missing in that operational piece that when you say to someone, let's meet Tuesday, that you really mean meet Tuesday, where you're physically located.
Right.
And I see a high level of avoidance with
Yes.
some of the other generations. They don't want to do it. You know, they're
No.
like,
No.
why do I need to do it? That's what they're
Yeah.
asking. Why do I
Why
need to
can't we have
see?
a Zoom call? Right. Why
No,
do we?
no,
Why do I
no,
need to
no,
see you?
not even
Why do I
Zoom.
need to see you face to face? Why do I need to
Right.
talk to you at all?
Yeah.
Oh, MP, I'm saying not even Zoom.
I get it. I
They
get it. I
don't
get it.
want to take that time at
No, they
all.
don't. They don't. They
And
don't.
some of them are clients. I'm like, really? You know, we're talking about big opportunities for you, and you don't want to sit for 15 minutes so we can find your solutions and solve your problem. So
And that's
that's the
where
question. Yeah.
the wisdom comes in.
Mhm.
Because we're gonna have to we're gonna have to show and explain and stay truthful to what we know works. Like you have to see each other face to face. You have to put the effort and energy into, putting on your gear, making sure your lighting is right. You making sure you got things going. You have in doing so, you get more out of whatever interaction that you have, right?
Yeah.
It has to be explained to them and it has to be shared with them in a way that they understand it. And when they grew up in a world where everything was uh, clickbait, everything was quick and easy, and you didn't have to do too much. You just push a button and you got what you wanted. Well, that doesn't work with humans. That only works with systems, and it doesn't work with people. People don't function like robots, or the people function they differently. They need to develop trust, and they don't know how to understand, or they don't value what that means. And so it has to be taught. Trust is something. Stephen Covey taught me this a long time ago. Trust is a combination of your character and your competence, right? I can't see your character. I have to watch you do what you do and understand the reasons why you do what you do to really understand your character. Your competence, I might be able to see because I see the results of what you produced. And then I can assume, oh, you got this certification behind your wall, right? So you must be competent, right? But that doesn't mean you are the character that I'm going to enjoy, and I'm going to want to trust. And so it's very, very important that we not shortcut engagement and hope to get to trust. Because if we don't truly engage one another, then we don't have what we need to get to a point where we can trust one another. And then everything is going to have to be long, laborious, and legalistic in everything we do. And that's not human. That's like anti-human. So we have to develop areas where we actually teach each other our love language, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think Leah mentioned this last week, right?
Yeah.
We have to teach each other what excites each other about certain things, and not take it for granted that we all shoot from the same script, because we don't.
Mm-hmm.
What you've demonstrated, and you said in a couple of weeks, Nick, that so we're all playing from a different script.
Mm-hmm.
So until we read each other's scripts, we won't know how to play with each other until we spend the time to
Right.
say, okay, here's what works for me, here's what doesn't work for me, here's how I like to play, here's how I don't like to play, and so on and so forth. And here's the reasons why. We've never wanted to do that. We've always wanted to do as I said, because that's the right, I know what the right thing is. you know, and they're not people of other generations are not tolerating that well.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And the baby boomers were the first. Well, every generation has always
First to
rebelled,
what?
right? But
Well,
every generation has always rebelled. I mean, you can go back to the dawn of time. Every group of teenagers has always rebelled. It's a part of being a teen, right?
yeah.
But because I'm a sociology major, so I understand this stuff. But the point is, when we take the time to understand each other's perspective, we can get to a place quicker
Mm-hmm.
where we can start to function together and collaborate together. But we simply have to take that time.
Right.
I learned, this emoji you see on thing, I learned it's not praying hands. I thought it was praying hands.
Me too. What is it?
Really, what it is, it's the clap. It's not clapping, but it's like high five.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about just the hands. Okay.
When you see just the hands doing this, they're doing a high
Yeah.
five. It's not praying hands.
Those
But
aren't
we
praying hands.
thought that's not what that wasn't when they created the emoji. That wasn't the intention. It wasn't praying hands. It was high five.
But you know it's
But
linked
again,
to it. You know it's
but
linked to
again,
it. Yeah.
now because AI made that link, right? The point I'm making is we have to teach each other about these different signals and these different things that we're doing because we can't
Mm-hmm.
assume that they mean what we think they mean.
So let me ask, for the audience or myself. Yeah. So Leah, Marv, um, outreach. So what rings to my head clearly, especially over the last 2 years and beyond where we got to go, like you said, what is your system, each of you, for outreach and engagement when it is those different, you know, uh, demo for that different tribe of demographics? What do you each have a system that you use and yes, I know a lot of people would look at the word profile as a negative, but it isn't, not by itself. It's just a word, right? um, do you have an approach that you take based on recognition of that specific audience, whichever it is, that you come up with a way of understanding and outreach, like you said, that's authentic, not just, as we say, code switching,
Right, right.
which I think is going to be very rare over these, coming years. It's not going to be a whole lot of code switching. There's going to be a lot of
Leah,
blunt
Leah, do
talk.
you have a really good answer to
Yeah,
this? Because I
Leah.
need to close out the show.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I could say that really, really quick. I say
okay,
that I'm very blessed that I'm very close to my millennial children. And so I have a lot of exposure to their culture, their lingo, how they operate. And truly, it's going into their world. And so that's why I'm embracing technology. That's why I'm embracing the metaverse, because that's their language. You're right, Coach Nick. They do not want to meet face to face. They like the avatars. I mean, even my precious grandson, he was talking to me about AI. I said, Mijo, what is AI? He says, oh, that means it's not real grandcamps. I said, oh, okay. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. But yeah, got to close it out. I have another appointment also. Thank you so much.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So
Take
for
care.
me, I mean, it's really
Mhm.
simple. I try to make sure that I don't just talk about my values, but I teach my values, right? Right up front. What you're gonna get from me comes from those core values, right? And I tell people what those core values are, and I show them how those core values link to my behaviors.
Mhm.
And so we get to trust really quickly because they don't have to second guess. Well, why is he doing this way? Why is he saying it that way? Why is he thinking about this? Why is he wearing this? Why is he producing this? Whatever it is they're thinking, they know straight up this is what he's all about.
But do
And
you
he's
put it in the form of a teach, or are you putting it in the form of a smarter teach? Well, I'm saying put it in the form of a question, because
both.
there's resistance. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of
Right, right,
cases, if to
right.
some Gen
Oh
Zs
man,
and millennials,
questions are the
yeah,
most powerful thing. Have you ever
right,
heard of blah blah blah? Did you ever
yeah,
know about blah blah blah? How does that affecting you? Asking them to engage, waking their brain up
and
is a
don't
way
use
that
the
you
word
get
teach.
that you no,
Good.
no,
Yeah.
no. You got to wake the brain up in order in order for it to accept what's coming down the pipe. It's like,
Right.
oh, this you may not have ever heard this before, and they go,
Mhm.
did you know that blah 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 blah? What do you think about that?
There we go. Right.
All of a sudden,
Mhm.
you know, old thoughts and things that they would normally say and do just disappears because they're now engaged and they're realizing that they hadn't thought about something in a certain
Mhm.
way, or they didn't understand something in a certain way, or they didn't know how to embrace a different perspective. I had a client, and we could go on and on, but I had a client because I get clients all the time, teaching them how to reframe a thought or an idea or a concept is not hard at all. But you do have to be patient enough to wait for them to arrive.
Mhm.
And you have to ask the questions that see the environment so that they can continue to grow and grow and grow. People are not going to be where you want them to be, not
Mhm.
immediately. They have to get to that space wherever they want to be, wherever you want them to be over time. And they have to take the steps themselves. If they don't take the steps themselves, they're never going to get there. You notice in track and field,
Oh,
right? If you don't follow the basic fundamentals, no matter how you approach it, you're gonna hit a growth plateau where you're not gonna be able to go and do any more. In
right.
fact, you're gonna injure yourself,
And you
right?
just gave me a great idea, taking the framework of what you're teaching and then take AI and put them all in the form of questions.
Yep, yep. Questions are
Right?
every
That,
good
that
coach knows. Every
you
good
just
coach
gave me a
knows that's the cheat
great
code, right?
idea.
Questions are
That's
the
the
cheat
cheat.
code.
And you
I don't
just
have
gave
any
me
answers. All I got is questions. We're
uh,
gonna arrive at the answers together.
I'm gonna do that on my next meeting. I'm gonna take my next agenda and flip it in the form. I'm gonna have AI put in the form of questions.
All right, I gotta go, guys. This has been wonderful. Thank
We
you
all
so
gotta
very
do it.
much. We can't even do backstage today because we
Right.
all got stuff
We
to
Thank
all
you
do.
got
so much.
I
everybody have a
appreciate
great
you guys.
weekend.
See you later. Guys, I'm signing off. This was a great show. This is one of the best shows. I hope you get a chance to share it. Hope you get a chance to watch it over and over again because the jewels that my guys dropped today, Leah and Nick, I'm so thankful and grateful for your gifts. Was amazing. I'm looking forward to doing it again next week. We'll see you at Coffee Tea, you and me. Bye-bye.